There's an article here today in howandwise.com, written again by a person named Vicky Verma. And this person has a lot of interesting UFO articles on this website. I'm running into a lot of them lately. And anyway, the headline reads, ex-CIA scientist believed Roswell alien autopsy film was real, leaked memo revealed. And okay, we're going to get into this article here. Roswell UFO alien incident has been one of the most discussed mysteries of the century. Apart from the UFO crash story, the alleged alien autopsy makes this riddle more complex. Irrespective of calling the video a hoax by many people, former CIA scientist Kit Green thought it was real as claimed in a leaked memo supposedly found in the late astronaut Edgar Mitchell's archives. Moreover, there might be some connection between Green's alien autopsy report and Stanford professor's study on those people's brains who were said to have encountered UAP and were injured. In December 2021, Motherboard conducted a Q&A with Dr. Gary Nolan discussing his research on anomalous materials from UFO crashes and people who came into contact with the objects. In the interview, Dr. Nolan mentioned the Sun article on the bizarre leak memo that claimed CIA scientist Kit Green thought the Roswell alien autopsy video was real. It is the most apprehensive article on the subject that links Dr. Kit Green, the memo, and the autopsy video into one. Dr. Green served for 20 years in the CIA and after as the Chief Technology Officer of the Asia Pacific of the General Motors Corporation and Assistant Dean of the Wayne State School of Medicine for the Asia Pacific. He has lived and served in government and academic capacities in Asia and as a professor in brain imaging and as a member of the Chinese and the U.S. Academics of Scientists, the latter as lifetime member NRC. Okay, so Kit Green has a really impressive resume, and at some point, at one point in his life, he claimed that he thought that Roswell alien autopsy footage from the 90s was real. Anyway, it says this. The article continues. The bizarre 17-minute black and white footage of the so-called Roswell alien was made public by British businessman Ray Santilli, who claimed to have acquired it in 1992 while looking for Elvis Presley archive footage in the United States. Although the footage is fake, as stated by filmmaker Cypros Malaris, a leaked memo supposedly delivered to aerospace tycoon Robert Bigelow by one of his physicists, Eric Davis, who has given the plot a fresh turn. According to the report, Kit Green, a former CIA scientist, briefed 3 different times during and after his tenure at CIA on topics relevant to UFOs and the Roswell incident alien autopsy. The memo, which is thought to have come from the late astronaut Edgar Mitchell's files, reads as follows. After Kit left the CIA, he was called into the Pentagon by a person in uniform. This person showed Kit the alien autopsy photos and reports, etc. The photos of the alien cadaver Kit saw were consistent with the cadaver seen in a 1995 Santilli film video. Kit was asked to professionally evaluate the material provided to him at this particular briefing. According to the leaked memo, Green offered his expert assessment on the video in January 2001. He concluded the alien autopsy film video is real, the alien cadaver is real, and the cadaver seen in the film video is the same as the photos Kit saw at the 1987-1988 Pentagon briefing. Okay. I'm not going to read the rest of this article because I'm just going to talk about about that film right now. That film's fake. It doesn't matter what Kit Green's saying here. Maybe he saw real images at one point, but that footage was absolutely, completely bogus. And okay, so for people who don't know, in 1995, there was this guy named Ray Santilli. He was a London-based entrepreneur. I'm going to read some of this stuff out of Wikipedia here. And he presented this, he said it was an authentic alien autopsy of one of the aliens that was found that was removed from the crashed flying disc in New Mexico in 1947. But then 11 years later, in 2006, he admitted that it was a fake. But even before we get to that, I'm going to tell you right now, in 1995, the moment I saw that film, I knew it was fake. There was no question in my mind that film was fake. There's just a lot of things that you could tell. I'm going to just let you know this, is that, in addition to UFOs and aliens, I have other interests too. One of my hobbies is I love old black and white movies. Since I was a kid, I've been always watching old films, black and white movies, old documentaries, all kinds of things, right? And And so you get a feel for when I could look, if somebody were to put on a little a minute long segment of a black and white movie, I would be able to tell you around the era when that was filmed just by looking at it. You have an idea of the texture of it. You just get a feel for it, right? That footage, the way that film looked in that footage, it looked like it had been filmed recently. There was no damage on it whatsoever. It looked too clean to be for something that was filmed in 1947 and finally being shown to the public in 1995. I just knew that it was phony the second I saw it. I knew it was. And actually, Santilli came out years later in 2006 and admitted that it was phony. And here's according to Wikipedia, in 2006, the events surrounding the release of the footage were adapted as a British feature film comedy, Alien Autopsy, directed by Johnny Campbell and written by William Davies. The film presents a humorous reconstruction of the making of the Santilli film based on Santilli's statements without commenting on the veracity of his claims. On April 4th, 2006, days before the release of the film, Sky broadcast a documentary, Eamon Investigates Alien Autopsy, presented by Eamon Holmes. In this program, Ray Santilli and fellow producer Gary Schofield admitted that their film was actually a reconstruction containing only, in their words, a few frames from the original 22 rolls of film, each averaging 4 minutes in length, that Santilli claimed to have viewed in 1992. They explained that by the time they had raised enough money to purchase the original, only a few frames were still intact, the rest having been degraded beyond the point of usability by heat and humidity. In that documentary, Eamon Holmes repeatedly refers to the film as a fake, while Santilli patiently insists it is a restoration, maintaining it is a reconstruction of an actual alien autopsy film he viewed in the early 1990s that subsequently deteriorated. Now, for one thing, okay, so this guy pulls off this hoax in 1995. He comes out with this footage, sells it to Fox, makes a ton of money on it, right, off this bogus alien autopsy that he told the world at the time in 1995 was real, which you could tell. I mean, if you were to bring film experts in and look at that film back then, they could have told you. You know, I'm not even a film expert. I'm just somebody who's, I just from watching all those old movies and old documentaries and things about World War II and the Korean War, all these kind of different kind of films I had watched over the years, I could just tell by looking at it that it was phony. And I'm sure there's experts out there that would have been able to really come up with a better, more technical reasoning why it was phony than I could. But so he comes out with this, he makes a ton of money off at Santilli, and then 11 years later comes out and says, oh yeah, it was just a restoration. I really saw the original film in 1992, and then by the time I had enough money to buy it, it was deteriorated really badly, and so we were able to save a few frames and sneak them into this reconstruction. So he's saying basically in that reconstruction there's a couple of real frames in there, real footage that he snuck in there somewhere. But he won't tell you where it is or anything. But anyhow, so the whole thing was phony. And then you expect to believe this guy after he lied about it, waited 11 years and said it was a reconstruction after lying about it for 11 years. Then he expects everyone to believe him here. No, he was lying. He was lying the first time and he was lying the second time. He never saw anything. He never came in contact with the original film. He never saw anything. Now, as far as Kit Green, maybe he was just fooled, right? Because that whole film was phony. And maybe it looked something like what he saw. Maybe he saw some images at that briefing like he said, right? I'm not saying that didn't happen, but I just don't believe that that film and whatever Kit Green was shown by the Pentagon, right, in the 80s, it was the same thing. I just don't see it. It's not. It couldn't have been. And here's another thing. If Santilli's saying, it was a reconstruction of what he saw in 92, then if the film was completely deteriorated by the time he had enough money to buy it, right? So how's he going to be able to really reconstruct it? He can't see it anymore. It's just too deteriorated, right? If it would have been anybody else, they would have taken that deteriorated film to a film lab somewhere that could try to restore it as best they could to get as much information out of that whatever was remaining, and then try to put something together with it. You wouldn't try to fake it like that. The whole thing was a hoax from the beginning all the way to the end, and it's a hoax today. That film is not real. So people need to remember this, right? Yeah, I totally, as everyone knows, I completely, absolutely believe that there's an extraterrestrial presence on this planet. However, At the same time, when something's not real, you got to be able to point at it and say, no, I don't believe that. That's not real. That film's not real. It's just not real. I mean, the guy admitted it. And then he tried to say years later, oh, well, yeah, it was a reconstruction of some stuff that I saw back in 92, and we snuck the surviving frames in there somewhere. Come on. You lied about it, and then 11 years later, you'd say, "Oh, I'm telling you the truth now." How you sat on that lie for 11 years, and then you come out and say this? How you expect everyone to believe you again? Yeah, that's maddening. There's people out there. There are hoaxers out there, and you got to beware. I mean, I don't really talk much about Billy Meyer, but I have problems with a lot of the Billy Meyer stuff. Okay, I know some people out there believe it wholeheartedly. Right, but I have problems with it. I mean, when you look into that story, there are a lot of issues, and there are big time issues when it comes to the Roswell Autopsy film. That shouldn't even be discussed anymore. That shouldn't even be part of the discussion. We shouldn't even be talking about this anymore because it was a hoax from beginning to end. I mean, if you believe in that, then you believe anything anybody tells you. And that makes people who believe in UFOs, right? Who are enthusiastic about trying to get to the bottom of this mystery. When it's the same. Like it makes them look foolish to other people that don't accept it, right? Because look at this, these people believe on all of this stuff. You show them this, and they believe it. And you have to be a little bit skeptical with some of the stories. Just like earlier, I was just talking about this guy, this Canadian. I mean, there's a possibility that guy's lying. But if he's not lying, my whole point with when we were talking about that is that if he's not lying, if he's telling the truth, and he wants to know what that is, well, obviously it has to be extraterrestrial. We don't have stuff like that, right? That's the answer to it. We don't have stuff like that. And I believe it's possible that he saw something like that because I saw something. Well, not to the scale of what he saw. I saw something else, flying saucer in 1994, right? There's no way the thing that I saw could have been human made, so I know that they exist, right? And plus, when I was a kid, when I was younger, I encountered an alien being, so I know that there's something going on. So when people tell a story, I'm not going to say that, oh, well, that person's lying, all right, well, must be, because I already know. I know that if some people are most certainly telling the truth about this because I saw one too. I know I know there's something going on. But then there's things like this where that alien autopsy film is phony. At the same time, I'll say this: I do believe that the United States government did create films of the autopsies, and there were reports that there were film crew, an Army, United States Army Air Force film crew at the site of the crash that was filming things there too. I'm sure that somewhere stored away, right? There's film footage of this, pictures, all kinds of stuff from the Roswell crash in '47. I'm certain that they have things like that. Some, probably hidden away some by Majestic 12 someplace. It exists. It's out there. It's somewhere. But it's hidden from the public, and it's been hidden from the public for 75 years now. And this Ray Santilli nonsense, it's a hoax, and that's all it was. It's not, I don't believe anything he said after. I mean, when I didn't believe it from the beginning, and then 11 years later he says, yeah, it was a hoax, it was a reconstruction, it was based on something I saw in 92. I don't believe that either. I think he made that up. Right? The guy's a liar. He hoaxed it. He just did it for money. That's all it was about. It was about making money. He sold that to Fox, the Fox channel. They showed it. It was a big event at the time. And I remember sitting there watching it, and no, that's fake. I could just tell by looking at the way that film, the texture, the way that film looks. That doesn't look like something from 1947 whatsoever. That looks like it was filmed like 3 months ago.